Listen to a simple moment. A young staffer arrives early at a building of stone and glass. The marble is cold through thin soles. The air smells of polish and old paper. Rows of empty seats wait like silent jurors. She grips the rail, feels the nicks left by 1,000 hands, and wonders how many private ambitions pass through this room dressed as public duty. Power isn't loud here. It hums behind the walls, travels in memos and glances, and lives in the stories people tell about why a rule must change or a budget must grow. On Power by Mark R. Levin asks us to pause in that quiet room and truly look around. It is a book about the nature of power and the fragile miracle of liberty, written with the urgency of someone who has seen institutions bend and citizens forget their role in protecting them. Levin sets today's battles inside an older conversation with observers like Alexis Tocqueville and Frederick Bastiat, who warned that centralized authority expands unless it meets resistance. This is not nostalgia. It is a case that history, philosophy, and daily civic life point to one truth. If you value freedom, you must understand power, what it is, how it grows, and how to keep it in place. The core idea is disarmingly simple. Unchecked power expands. Liberty shrinks unless we bind power to law, morality, and the consent of an alert citizenry. We do not drift toward freedom, we drift toward control. To resist that drift, we need memory, courage, and design. Guardrails on paper and guardrails in the heart. Walk through a few scenes. Rome begins as a republic of farms and markets, cautious with titles because it remembers what it is to kneel. Fear arrives in a soldier's boots. The crowd asks for order and bread. Charismatic men promise both. The Rubicon is crossed. Voices are not silenced in a night. They are traded for comfort over years. That is how power grows, quietly, for reasons that seem responsible at the time. Shift to a field in England, damp grass underfoot, the smell of horses and rain. A king faces barons exhausted by arbitrary decrees. Ink meets parchment. A great charter is born. It is transactional, not romantic, yet it cracks a presumption. Even a king is under the law. Paper is weaker than steel, but an idea can outlast both, giving ordinary people a place to stand. Cross an ocean to a sweltering hull where windows rattle in the heat. The founders argue with ferocity. On one table lies a blueprint that cuts power into pieces: legislative, executive, judicial, national and state, public and private. They do not trust virtue alone. They choose parameters over personalities, assuming even good men can be seduced by a crown that glitters. Now we return to the present. Power rarely announces itself. It grows in emergencies. A war, a crash, a plague. Each crisis brings genuine pain and the need for coordination. New offices open. New powers are borrowed just for now. The forms look temporary. The habits become permanent. Agencies gather quiet authority that can change a life with the form letter. A fog of decisions made far away by officials you did not hire and cannot fire. Levin asks us to study the architecture. A free society depends on limits, written, judicial, and temporal. It depends on unalienable rights, gifts no vote may take and no official may sell. When schools teach rights as permissions, the moral map flips. When the family frays and voluntary associations fade, the state rushes into the gap with paperwork and promises. Listen to the language of power. It speaks softly. It calls censorship safety, favoritism equity, centralization efficiency. Good words do dishonest work. The remedy is not to sneer at safety or equity, but to ask who decides and by what authority. In a free country, persuasion beats compulsion, and decentralization beats command. Diversity of thought is a discipline. Protect the person who disagrees with you, even when applause goes silent. A small scene. In a public school gym, the lights hum, and the floor smells like varnish. Folding chairs line up beneath a basketball hoop. On the agenda sits one dry sentence that will change how history is taught. A mother in denim jacket steps to the microphone. Her notes tremble. She is a citizen. It is awkward and slow, but something sacred happens. Authority listens, and a decision bends to a human voice in a room small enough for eye contact. Power also needs stories to justify itself. Every empire explains why it must stretch a little further. Fear today, compassion tomorrow. Budgets grow like vines. Good people inside large systems try to do good, yet systems develop appetites. If no one asks, what is the limit? The honest answer becomes, there isn't one. Technology adds a new complexion. A handful of platforms shape what millions see before breakfast. Algorithms curate attention, and attention is the oxygen of public life. When gatekeepers label some views too dangerous, the line between moderation and manipulation blurs. The answer is not chaos. It is transparency, competition, and a culture that treats speech as a right to be protected, not a problem to be managed. Adopt a vibrant and clear delivery that brings the story's imagery to life. The pace should be measured and rhythmic, allowing dramatic moments to land with force and quiet moments to feel intimate. Infuse key phrases with purposeful energy and a hint of steel, reflecting the defiance of the characters. Speak with an authoritative yet personal tone, as if you are a witness to these events, sharing a truth that must be remembered. Now picture a small town courthouse. The bench is scuffed, the flag is frayed. An older judge reads the law. Outside, trucks rumble past a diner where the coffee is strong and the waitress knows everyone's name. It is not glamorous, but the rule of law is guarded here as surely as in the highest court. Federalism keeps mistakes small and remedies close. The book pushes deeper toward the moral roots of politics. Laws can divide power, only character can restrain the will to dominate. A society that mocks restraint will someday be ruled by those who lack it. So the call is not only institutional, it is personal. Live below your power, honor promises, build families, and join associations that ask more of you than a clique. Liberty is a set of habits before it is a set of statutes. History offers a stern kindness. It tells us what happens when we forget. A revolution can promise rights and end with the blade. The 20th century promised equality and built gulags. Our age promises protection from discomfort and sometimes offers speech codes and surveillance in return. Government is not the enemy, but it is a tool to be kept in its box when not in use. What should we do in ordinary life? Liberty is lived, not laminated. Start with memory. Read the documents that built your freedom and teach them whole, not in fragments. Distribute power. Support institutions that diffuse authority, independent courts, competitive markets, local decision-making, free associations. Practice speech. Defend the right to speak for people you dislike. Serve where you stand, on a board, in a classroom, at a council meeting, so you feel both responsibility and constraint. Vote with attention. Ask what a policy does to the balance of power, not only what it promises to deliver. There is also economics, the daily arithmetic of power. When the state can grant or remove the license that feeds you, speech becomes cautious. When rules freeze new competitors, incumbents grow comfortable, and alliances between big government and big business harden like poured concrete. The answer is fairness rooted in rules that apply to everyone and favoritism that applies to no one. Opportunity lets the unknown become the owner. And compassion, a decent society lifts the vulnerable, but compassion without limits becomes control without end. Keep moral aims high and mechanisms humble. Empower families and neighbors first. Use governments as last resorts and short bridges, not permanent homes. In the end, power is personal. It is the manager who decides whether to humiliate or teach, the officer who chooses courtesy over contempt, the senator who remembers that representative is not ornamental. It is you and me telling the truth without cruelty and refusing to trade liberty for convenience. The drama of power plays out at legislative scale, yes, but also at the scale of the heart. Take one more walk into that chamber. Seats fill, microphones glow red, papers shuffle like soft rain. The staffer from the opening scene watches a committee begin. She smells cooled coffee and the metallic tang of nerves. Some here are sincere, some calculating. All are human. Our design does not require angels, only adults bound by rules and watched by citizens who refuse to be bored by their inheritance. The gavel drops. The room wakes. Somewhere, a single vote, cast by someone who did the work to understand, keeps power in its place. Here is where the book leaves us. Freedom is not preserved by hope alone. It is kept by structure, culture, and courage. Know the limits that keep rulers honest. Celebrate the rights that keep people free. Build families and communities that produce citizens, not clients. Notice when language shifts and good words are drafted into bad service. Remember that the state is a mighty servant and a terrible master. If we forget, history is patient. If we remember, ordinary people can do extraordinary work, quietly, persistently, together. If this stirred something in you, let it become the next small act. Attend a meeting. Read the founding documents with someone young. Start a conversation across a disagreement and refuse to end it with contempt. Make something that does not need permission. Vote, volunteer, and when it's your turn, yield the microphone. Liberty survives when ordinary people behave like owners, not spectators. If this resonated, like the video, share it with the friends who needs courage today, and subscribe so we can keep learning how to protect freedom, one honest conversation at a time.